here. It's called Bella Melt. You were on it for just 1 week when you lost 3 pounds. So in the first week, you lost 3 pounds on this, right?
That is correct.
Your GLP-1 is a natural hormone that's in every single one of our bodies. And your GLP-1 lets you know if you're full. It's a satiety hormone. So when your GLP is working properly, it does help suppress your appetite as well as reduce those cravings. It's a sugar-free fast melt caramel. So what it's going to do best is it's going to reduce your sugar cravings or any other cravings you have in your body. It's going to suppress that appetite. But where Melissa got the most benefit, I think, over the last week was the L-carnitine. The L-carnitine tells your mitochondria, this is where you make, we talked about it before, this is where you produce energy in your cells. It actually tells those mitochondria to burn fat for fuel. We're noticing other people losing up to 7 pounds in the first week. 4 pounds has been about the average. As you lose weight and as you take these Bella Melts, it's going to help lower that blood sugar in your body as well.
All the information is there. MelissaHouseBG.com, MelissaHouseBG.com. Just now introducing for the first time Bella Melt with GLP-1 Fast Action.
Welcome, everybody, to Live Up to Freedom. Thank you so much for joining me today on this very special episode. We'll get to it in a minute. We are live on WorkViewTube.com, WorkViewTube, Rumble, and X account. We're also live on X America News on X, and we are live on my platforms of X, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, and Substack. And as always, I invite you to join the conversation via comment section. I will be glancing at the comment section as much as I can today. In a minute, I will be joined by a very special guest. She's a first timer here on Live Up to Freedom, and I recently came to discover her, if I could use that word. I promise you're going to be at least fascinated by the discussion. So since we will have a guest, feel free to put your questions or comments for our guest as well, and I'll read them to her as we get to the end of the show. Before we bring her on, though, I want to mention we have talked about my book and the pre-order and all of that, but you can now send in your emails. The first batch of signed copies, paperback copies, will be available or shipped out within next week. So if you want to grab a copy, signed copy of the paperback, go ahead and send me an email, liveuptofreedom@gmail.com. That's liveuptofreedom@gmail.com, and I will add you to the first batch of release. Pre-order, of course, on Kindle is still on Amazon. You can go to Amazon and order your Kindle copy, and the Amazon release is still March 21st. Now, on top of that, I'm very excited to announce that it happened that I will have my first event/book signing before the release of the book. That will be in Chicago, Illinois. As you know, I travel to Chicago at least twice a year for events. But on March 14, Faith and Fire event put together by Networking the Network is on March 14. I am going to be there with my books before the pre-release. So It's not just about me in the book. The event itself is filled with information. Again, I was the keynote speaker at this event last year. They do it annually. My topic last year was AI. And this year, of course, as you can imagine, it will be specifically the Betrayal Jihad chapter of the book. You can register and get your seatings or tickets now. On your screen, you see the information. There's a QR code. You can scan that, or just go to Networking the Network website and grab your tickets. There is a limited seating. It is a beautiful church. I have spoken at that church before, I believe in 22 or 23. And it's going to be a great opportunity for individuals and business owners, especially if you're a Christian grassroots organization. This is the purpose, networking the network, where we can bring fire through our faith back to everywhere. This one is, of course, in Chicago. You can also become a sponsor if you want. They do have a sponsorship available. Anyhow, head over, and the information is also available on my social media. But I hope to see you, those of you who are close enough to travel to Chicago or are in Chicago area. I will be there March 14 on Saturday, March 14, and my books will be going with me, where I will have a table, and we will discuss the specific chapter of Betrayal Jihad at that event, March 14. I think that was all the announcements I had to make today. Hopefully I don't forget anything. If I did, I will bring them up at the closing segment. It's been a long month. I know, right? It's Tuesday. I feel like it's Friday, but that's all right. I am not going to complain much today. Just a little bit. It's been long. By the way, if for those of you who are not on my Facebook nor on Worldview Tube, we had what I would say a very, very fascinating panel on Brown House Live last night. It was wonderful. It is streamed on Worldview 2 platforms and only on my Facebook platform. I might actually just run that on my show one of these days this week, but it was amazing. The discussion was, the panel was Brian House himself, me, Aaron Lavarco, the Worldview Tube Israeli reporter from Israel, and then we had Dr. Rob Lindstedt, who you are familiar with him. He also has a program right here on Worldview Tube. And we went over the Tucker Carlson versus Ambassador Huckabee interview. It was pretty good. Unfortunately, I had to hop off early due to a schedule issue. But catch it. Go to wordviewtube.com, catch it, watch it there. And as I said, I'm probably going to, it's a little longer than my usual 1 hour show, but I'm going to see if we can figure it out and air it on my airs time one of these days of this week. Okay. I did a lot of talking. I shouldn't do that. Okay, let's go ahead and bring our very special guest, Lyric Gillett. I practiced her name. Hopefully I didn't butcher that. She's the founder and executive director of Faces of Choice. I won't say anything about it because she does a better job of explaining what's behind it and what's the plan of this organization. Lyric, thank you so much for joining me today on Live Up to Freedom. I look forward to this very moment for almost 2 weeks now.
I'm thrilled to be on, Annie, and let me say I want to be one of the first to buy your book as well. So be sure to put me on that list, and if not, then I'll have to email you later. But I'm thrilled to be on today. Faces of Choice. I began Faces of Choice 5-6 years ago now, and I organized it to bring together awareness for a very specific demographic of survivors. Most don't even know that they exist. These are survivors of abortion. And what I mean by that are babies who were literally aborted, but survived the process while they were still in their mother's womb and are living to this day. And the idea behind this, Annie, is that most humanitarian efforts of our era have had the face of a survivor attached to it. For instance, the civil rights movement had Rosa Parks and MLK, or you come out of Auschwitz and you had Elie Wiesel, who was giving face to the inhumanity of what was transpiring there during the Holocaust. And when you have these survivors come and look you in the eye and tell you their story, a paradigm shift takes place that has the power to change everything. If you think about this in the context of survivors of abortion, if you look a survivor of abortion in the eye and you tell them, I supported your mother's choice, think about the implication of that statement. Had that choice worked, the person that you're looking at would no longer exist. And so the mindset behind Faces of Choice is that choice is not merely a word. Choice is a person with a name and a face and a story of survival. And it's time the world faces the choice.
Absolutely. Yes. And I want to say this real quick. By the way, yes, absolutely. I will text you after the show so we can get you that copy as soon as possible. I have this extra smile on my face today because I actually have the author copies on hand. It's real now. It exists. It's in my hand. So I will make sure to contact you to send you your copy for sure. And I want to tell my audience, it was, we're both believers, of course, sisters in Christ. Most of my audience are. So is our network. Worldview Tube is of the biblical worldview. But I met you as producer of Alex Newman. I was producing his show 2 weeks ago. You were the guest. And as I told you, I've never done this before. I don't do that to any of the shows I produce. But while watching you in a short 10-minute segment with Alex, something in my heart was like, you need to reach out to her. So with Alex's approval, I got in touch with you. But what got me, as you were saying, what you were saying on that segment, was the fact of, I hope this doesn't come out wrong or offensive. If it's offensive, it's okay. I'm just practicing my rights here. But you have to be, Lyric, the person, the mind behind this organization, you have to be deeply connected to your discernment to even see this. The odds of someone coming up or having that understanding of how you can change the conversation through the most impactful, because you're right, these faces are, when we say choice, but then also, to my knowledge, when you said what you said on Alex's show, I'm like, this is also the proof of God's miracles. They are humans, of course, which we are his miracle, but to survive such procedure, and not only survive it as a child, but later on in life to thrive as child of God, is it's the most bulletproof proof of God's miracle, right? So you're facing two very challenging combat. The choice is a human, and then also arguing against God's words that this creation shall not be a choice, but a mandate. Am I making any sense here?
100%, Annie. I'm often asked what got me here, because I'm not a survivor of abortion. I haven't had an abortion. And I know that that's unusual, but there's a bit of a narrative arc here that ties precisely into what you're saying. And, I was blessed to be home educated. I was blessed to have parents who actually were involved in the fray before I was born. They had worked with Jay Sekulow in Texas to allow people to actually pray in front of a Planned Parenthood and not be prosecuted for exercising your First Amendment right. But there's something to the way that I was taught not what to think. I was taught how to think. And when you're analyzing that, but you're doing that in the scope of a question of worldview, the lens through which you view the world. My background, my passion is physics. I think we talked a little bit about that. It's kind of all over the place. But when you analyze the question of the meaning of the why behind each thing, the realization came to play for me that the foundational question that answers every single thing about which I'm passionate is, whose are you? To whom do you belong? In whose image are you made? Because if you don't answer that foundational question, everything from life at birth, to death is completely mangled. Whether you have human trafficking, questions of domestic abuse, all of these dynamics are resolved in the question of, in whose image are you made? But that question has a conception point, if you will, and it is the life of the unborn child. And when you have that spark of life at conception, when you are arriving, as it were, on earth in God's image from that initial moment of animation in your spirit from the living God, that is what defines how we perceive humanity from that moment, is how we define as a culture the way that we treat humanity in every phase after that, from birth until death. And so it's exactly what you're saying, that there is a mandate, there is an understanding. And unless we actually hijack language with truth, unless we come back to saying that imago Dei, made in God's image. Unless we start from that first principle, everything else falls apart. And so it really was that understanding, and then saying, okay, well, we've been arguing about this for a few decades now about, when is the baby viable? All of these different questions. But unless we actually take language back and understand that the value of this choice is a human life, that this choice has a name, has eyes, has story. You can see the injury on so many of these people. I mean, I would love to go into during our time together today to talk about so many of these children that are now adults, but their story of survival, the wounds and the scars that many of them carry, yes, internally, but many of them also externally. This is undeniable proof of the humanity of the child in the womb in a way that our culture doesn't talk about.
Amen. Yes, we're definitely going. We have the entire show. I mean, if you're available, I have made sure to leave the whole show, the entire hour open for our discussion. But we do need to head to our first ad break. So hold your thoughts. Everybody on the comment section from side, I can see comments coming in. I will scan through them. If you have a question or a comment for Lyric, put them in. I'll make sure to get her answers for you. Help me with the questions today. But don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick ad break. We'll be right back.
Life is too short to spend a single moment spinning in laundry worries. Take a load off your mind with the all-new Norwex Powerzyme laundry detergent. This natural detergent harnesses the power of enzymes and plant-based surfactants to leave fabrics fresh and clean without fillers, brighteners, synthetic fragrances, bleach, or harsh chemicals. So go ahead, have your cake and eat it too. More than ever, stressful stains have met their match. Powerzyme's fast-acting enzymes break down organic substances while natural surfactants loosen locked-in dirt and oil, removing residue, stains, and odors with ease. With 91% bio-based ingredients, this dermatologist-tested hypoallergenic formula is suitable for sensitive skin types and delivers a safe and effective clean that won't harm you or the planet's waterways. Less time spent worrying about laundry means you can focus on what truly matters. Norwex Powerzyme Laundry Detergent. Discover the power of nature and load up on confidence.
Welcome back to Live Up to Freedom. Thank you so much for staying with us until now. I greatly appreciate it. As you know, I always say this. It is very important to keep ourselves healthy, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And nowadays in our country, it's very proven that everything we buy, everything we eat, everything we touch is toxic until you come across Norwex. 100% chemical free. I've been using them for now about 8 months. I'm a fully convert. You look around my house, I have their cleaning products, I have their cloth, I have their skincare, hygiene, everything. And you can save yourself some money, get a healthier you and a healthier household, and support what I do financially, because as an official consultant, I receive a percentage of your purchase through my link as commission. So head over to cyruswellness.com, cyruswellness.com, make your purchases. And that way you're supporting your health, your home, and my work financially. Appreciate your support. Quick answer on the comment section. I believe, yes, I have received all of your emails on the pre-order emails. And yes, I'm saying that the first batch of orders, which I think right now are about 18 emails that have come in, I will be shipping those out within the next 10 days, Lord willing, nothing comes up. My roof doesn't collapse on me, nor they kidnap me. They should be coming out soon. Let's go ahead and bring Lyric back on so we can continue the discussion. And again, I do see your questions and comments for her. And I agree we should share this everywhere. Guys, this conversation matters, especially, the root of the conversation, the topic is close to all of our hearts. Well, half of the country's heart. But the language, the change of language, the brilliant idea by Lyric to change, she says, hijack the conversation with truth. I would say just a correction is we're actually taking it away from those who hijacked it from us, because they have hijacked the truth with their own truth and your truth and their truth and his truth and them truth. There's only one truth and there's only one truth. So Lyric, I want to get into more of the details of everybody's story, but one thing I want to mention, and this is we have had conversation. My audience already know that I will most certainly die defending America. But one thing I want you to go into details, of course, of this circumstances. One thing that bothers me the most about what's happening in America by choice of Americans is where your organization, your voice, which is the voices and testimony of these survivors, is easily censored and bounced off the wall. And an international organization like FIFA is willing to take on your offer of an advertising, but well, NFL prefers not to. So, do you mind telling us this story? I don't want to give too much of it. So my audience can understand why sometimes I sit here and say America is in big trouble.
Yeah, Annie, I think as humans, we have the tendency to do what Jordan Peterson has termed hiding unwanted things in the fog. So when something makes us uneasy, we would prefer to obscure it and put it out of our mind's eye instead of having to confront it. And so, the Lord brought this idea for a commercial regarding survivors of abortion to me a number of years ago. I actually woke up in the middle of the night and wrote the whole thing down and went back to bed and forgot about it for a while. But in 2019, I thought this needs to be distributed. This needs to be created and distributed. So there was a very long journey of finding survivors of abortion and having these conversations and recording the script. And the Lord ended up to where I decided this was going to be a Super Bowl commercial. Initially, I had thought, let me just contact different pregnancy centers around the country and have them distribute this and offer this if they want to use it for their resources. But then I thought, this is too small of an idea. We need to confront society with truth. We need to bring Americans face to face with the reality of this ambiguous word that we have changed its meaning and done in a way that we can make ourselves feel autonomous. When you elevate choice and associate it with the American ideal, everyone feels happy about it. Everyone feels like this is the crux of the American spirit, when in reality, it's a covenant with death and a blood sacrifice that really is undermining the very essence of what it means to be free, both spiritually and, I believe, in a physical sense. We have enslaved ourselves through this covenant with death and blood. And so the idea was to bring this towards the Super Bowl. And, the network led us along for months. We were one of the very first advertisers for the 2020 Super Bowl to bring this forward. And they led us along until the very end saying, yeah, we're going to run your ad. No worries. It's just a matter of figuring out all the details because you're a new advertiser. But long story short, they really manipulated the situation and led my media buyer along and I for quite some time till the very end, right? Just days before the Super Bowl. And, they had told us before that there was a sellout situation, which doesn't make sense because we were one of the very first advertisers. And then we found out that there were 6 more spots that were opened right before the Super Bowl. And we asked, give us the dignity of a response. If you're not going to accept us, that's fine, but just give us, according to standard business practice, give us a rejection. And of course they wouldn't do it because they didn't want the media coverage that would have gone along with it. And so we ended up being blessed to engage with My Faith Votes. And during that time, over 150,000 people emailed the network demanding that they run the Faces of Choice ad. It was just days before. We crashed their servers, which I take pride in. They did not run the ad at the time, but what did happen was a very large national media blitz. There was a great deal of coverage. The Faces of Choice ad ended up running during the 2020 March for Life, soon after President Trump left the stage. An abortion survivor who runs actually the Abortion Survivors Network named Melissa Oden was able to introduce the commercial from the stage. And there, like I said, there was a lot of media focus on that. But unfortunately, that really was within what I consider to be the echo chamber. We did have this go out. I would say a few million people saw it, and not all of them were pro-life. And I'll actually go into a little bit of that and the reactions that we got later. But we were targeting an audience of 100 million people. So this was not the scope that I was planning for. Right after that, though, just a month or two after, COVID transpired. And as you know, the entire world shifted in a very planned way after that. So the thing is, though, that all through this time, after 2020, every year I would ask my media buyer to apply to all of the major spots, and we never really received a direct rejection from anyone, but a lot of times it was just clearly a no-go. But that was until this past year. miraculously, and I mean miraculously, we have received approval to run the Faces of Choice ad campaign during the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Now, I was, moaning and mourning over 100 million Americans not being able to see this ad campaign. But the 2026 FIFA World Cup is projected to be the single largest event in world history, with an audience projection between 1 billion to 5 billion people. So when I say that we are bringing the world face to face with the reality of choice and taking control of this language and making sure that definitions comport with truth, that is what we are walking into now for June and July of this year, bringing the abortion survivor to the eye of the random, individual that doesn't perhaps give much thought to this, but has bought the bilge that choice is simply about bodily autonomy, instead of understanding that the body inside of your body is not your body. So these are the conversations that we are now poised to have on the international scale.
Hallelujah. Yes, these are the times we are reminded that if what we thought was the right choice and the right path didn't happen, that's because God has a bigger plan for our plan. And we stay in faith and we don't question the result, though it is shameful. Now, myself, where I come from, I'm all about soccer. Well, it's football. They changed the name to soccer, They use their foot actually.
That language, Andy. I'm not giving that back to you.
Right. It's like they did you use their foot? I'm just saying. But that's where my head is at. I have never been a, American football. I understand the game. I have learned the game. I have watched games with friends, but I've never been a big supporter of NFL or football or any of that. But it is shameful to know that it's been years since it's been exposed openly that NFL is all about the woke, the LGBTQ never-ending map. But the fact that they don't lose support, they don't lose money, they're still making the money, they maybe more, is where we come to what you stated originally. It's, it's okay. It's uncomfortable. We know they're supporting the wrong side and they're broken spiritually, but we'll continue supporting them because it's the entertainment we seek, right? The same thing with Hollywood and the movies and Disney Plus. It's the same scenario. And I can sit here and preach about it because my TV runs on mainly, news from Middle East, from their own channels. And my music is mainly Middle Eastern music. It's like I'm not supporting any of it. But yes, I'm very glad. I always look forward to World Cup this year. I have concerns, but I definitely look forward to seeing that ad. And before we move forward, I would like to, of course, your ad for either NFL or any other media, including the FIFA situation, is a shorter version, but there's a longer version of this beautiful, honestly, the idea, the production, the edit, the post-production, the concept, the faces. It is so brilliantly made. I want to give a shout out to you and your entire crew, whomever they are. Utmost respect for their amazing work to transfer this message in the most level yet human way. So if you don't mind, let's go ahead and take a look at the full version of this video, and then we come back and we dive in a little deeper.
In 1952, I survived multiple abortion attempts. My father was a major in the Hungarian army until the end of the Second World War. Later, he was declared a class enemy of the new communist regime and was removed with his wife and 2 sons from Budapest to the Great Hungarian Plain, or the Puszta. They were ordered not to leave their dwelling place. He could hardly find the most basic job, and he and his family were starving. While in this sad plight, my mother realized she was pregnant. My father didn't favor the abortion, but my mother did not want to carry me to term. So she sought out a doctor who would be willing to perform the abortion, and found one. However, class enemies were not allowed to leave the Puszta So she tried to abort me in multiple attempts, even taking pills to try to induce miscarriage. However, I miraculously survived. I first heard the story of my birth accidentally when I was 12 years old. My mother and I had a strained relationship, but after so many years of struggling with rejection, we were finally reconciled just before her death. Hope, forgiveness, and reconciliation are always possible, even in the most difficult of situations. My wife and I feel so blessed by our 12 living children, 2 of whom are in North Carolina. I dedicated my life to my organization, which saves innocent human lives by caring for and loving pregnant women in crisis situations. I mourn the 6 million Hungarian children and the 2 billion children worldwide who, unlike me, did not survive abortion. Europe is losing its indigenous population to abortion as we riot against biological law. I wish all people and nations understood the full gospel message and the truth about the value of human life, which is part of the natural law written on all human hearts. Please give peace a chance and see the faces of those innocents who are so much more than clots of blood within the womb.
I'm sorry, I made a mistake, guys. I meant to send the ad. I have no regrets though, because this was just as beautiful as the other testimonies in the ad and all of them. So I apologize for sending in the wrong video, but I'm not regretting this video.
This is one of the testimonies. So what the Lord had us do is that each of the survivors that participated in the main commercial, which I did just email to your producer if he wants to put that one in a little bit, but each survivor had the opportunity to give their own testimony individually to talk about what happened. And I really think that that was just a divine intervention because as I had mentioned before, after this ad ran and a few million people did see it, I started getting emails from women who were post-abortive, who had had abortions. And what they said was that when we first heard about your ad campaign, we were scared. We thought that there was going to be condemnation coming against women who had had abortions. And frankly, they didn't feel like they could handle looking a survivor of abortion in the eye and feeling that. But every single person who had a testimony of survival and a video stated that they either forgave or reconciled with their birth mothers. And that's kind of what you saw with Emery. He's a survivor from Hungary. But more so, many of the other ones actually end up having close, healthy relationships with their birth mothers. And so these women said that when we saw the forgiveness in the eyes of these survivors, we felt that for the first time, we were able to metabolize that forgiveness as if it was coming from our child whom we aborted, who did not survive. So the capacity for healing through the abortion survivors conversation, through that narrative arc, especially when it's rooted and grounded in forgiveness and healing in Christ, is something that cannot be overstated. But yes, that was one of the testimony videos. The main commercial that I know that you saw on the show was a bit different, but I mean, all of these people are incredible, and hearing their stories at any time is phenomenal.
Yes, and I want to let my audience know, for your own viewing and also for helping us spread the message, I'm very glad that your ad will be running during World Cup. However, that doesn't mean every single one of us, individuals, we can build up a huge number of eyes on this project. So everybody, facesofchoice.org, facesofchoice.org. When you go to their website, you see the testimonies, the full video, just like the one we just watched. There's too much. No, I shouldn't say. There is plenty. Too much is not a good word. There's plenty for everybody to grab and run with. Send it to your church group, send it to post it on your social media. when there's a good conversation, we need to get involved. And I love this conversation. You know, immediately I'm like, okay, call me. Let's go. What can I do? I want to get involved. I want to get involved. And again, I will admit, I did not tell you this off air, but I will tell you this. I went, of course, on your website. I watched the ad. I watched a few of the testimonies and on. And I'm not going to say completely, but I have kind of went into a gray area. I didn't have a gray area based on my past and my background. I was strictly on, I know it's wrong. I know it's wrong. I know it's a sin, but a child who's been raped shall not be forced to carry to term. Your organization, your videos, your discussions have got me to a gray. I will not lie. I'm not fully done with it, but I am in a gray area. I wanted you to know that. I don't know if it even matters to anybody, but as a strict, we cannot force a rape product, especially of underage, to term. I'm reconsidering that after watching your work. I'm grateful you did it. And I was just told that the original ad that I meant to send in is ready. So let's take a look at that as well. And then we'll continue the discussion.
Can you look me in the eye?
Can you look me in the eye and tell me that I shouldn't exist?
That I should be dead?
That I deserve to die that day.
Can you look me in the eye and tell me that my very survival was a mistake?
A terrible toll on society?
Can you look me in the eye and tell me that in my most vulnerable state, I was nothing more than a parasite?
A collection of body parts. Subhuman?
Worthless?
In 1952, I survived multiple abortion attempts.
DNC abortion.
An instrument abortion.
DNC abortion.
Heritage abortion.
A vacuum aspiration.
abortion.
An induced
A
abortion.
saline infusion abortion that was meant to poison and scald me to death. I am the face of choice. I am that choice.
These are actual human beings who survived abortion procedures when they were still in their mother's wombs. These are the eyes, voices, and faces of choice. Choice is not merely a word. Choice is a person. Learn their stories.
Amazing, powerful. Yes, I love that. Choice is a person. On your website, Lyric, on the About page, there is a statement that I believe it's from you, basically, on your behalf. That got me thinking. Abortion is said to be a silent genocide, but it doesn't have to, and it shouldn't be. Can you elaborate on that?
Most people don't know that survivors of abortion exist. Even in the pro-life sphere, I would say that 80 to 90% of people don't even know that there is a voice that has come out of a stance of survivorship. And giving them their voices back, enabling this conversation to be centered on the humanization of the question of what this choice is, takes it from the murder of an innocent in a womb, the killing of an innocent in a womb, to actually saying, here's your voice back. And let me describe how I perceive this. You know, the abortion conversation has been centered with this political sensitivity around something that I've called the hierarchy of the right to speak. And what that means to me is that when you have this totem pole that says that men are at the very bottom of this totem pole and should not have any right in the conversation about abortion because a man cannot have an abortion. Now, I want to pause and say that your experiential relationship to something should not have any bearing over the truth of that situation. But that aside, let's agree with this hierarchy. Let's say, okay, your experiential relationship to abortion should determine how much of a right that you have to speak on the topic. But if we're going to go based on that logic, the person at the very top of this totem pole is not the woman that has had an abortion. It is the baby who has had an abortion but has survived the process. Those are the people that should have the predominant, experientially rooted voice in the abortion conversation. Because again, we're hiding unwanted things in the fog. We are taking away the voice from someone like Hope. You may have seen the young lady on that commercial who had a scar from the front to the back of her head. That scar is not there by accident. That scar is there because in an early abortion, during the abortion process, a D&C abortion, her brain was scraped out from the front to the back of her skull. And now, as a result, she has cerebral palsy. You have Josiah, the Asian gentleman that you saw in the commercial. He is missing a portion of his arm because it was pulled off during the course of the abortion. That's why, and I so appreciated you sharing about your perception of this conversation, because I understand that the way that you are perceiving this is rooted in human empathy and in the capacity to make these decisions and choices. But the question then becomes, what about the choice of the person in the womb? And if we foster a culture where we affirm life, and that's why the conversation has been manipulated quite a bit, where we have the conversation about the life of the mother. There is no good doctor who would say that the life of the mother must be jeopardized while she is pregnant. If there are life-saving measures that must take place for the life of the mother, every pro-life advocate will agree that that is what must transpire. The difference is that it's not an abortion, for instance, like an ectopic pregnancy where the child will not survive and the mother will not survive. That's not an abortion, because the abortion is the intentional killing of another human being. If you are taking measures to preserve the life of another, that is not the same thing in which another human dies. That is not the same thing as intentionally killing another human being. So we have these conversations about the life of the mother, about rape and incest, but all of these cases make up less than 1% of all abortions. And that is actually something that comes from the Guttmacher Institute, which is funded by Planned Parenthood. So that's not pro-life propaganda. We understand what these numbers actually are. But the conversation once again shifts from a covenant with death to a life-affirming conversation when we say, if this is truly the life of the mother, then we have to evaluate what this looks like if it's an ectopic pregnancy. But if it's a situation of rape, Annie, I know people who were conceived in rape. I know incredible people who are doing anti-human trafficking work right now who were conceived in rape. I don't believe that it is a legitimate conversation to look at that person and say, you would be better off dead. I don't think that you should have the right to exist as you are, as a human being made in God's image, because your mother was brutally assaulted when you were conceived. In fact, I think the question should be a different kind of life-affirming question, which removes the societal shame around rape, which prosecutes. And I mean, you want to talk about the death penalty for rapists? Let's have that conversation.
Yes, please. Can we have that?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, to me,
that I'm all for.
That's the kind of question, though, Annie, that is a life-affirming societal question. If we are saying that no person who is innocent deserves to die, but then you also want to talk about the health of the mother, I mean, what about the fact that the incidences of breast cancer escalate significantly after you've had an abortion? Or if you're a very young child and you have abortion, your possibility or your capacity for having a child later in life goes down significantly. So it seems that a culture of death that views death as the answer simply perpetuates harm and death on the people that we're proposing that we're trying to save. So again, if there are medically necessary situations where medical intervention will result in the death of a child, those are different kinds of conversations to have. But again, that is for preserving the life of the mother. Your aim is not to kill. Your aim is to preserve everyone's life involved. And if in the process a child expires, that's a tragedy. That's not your goal. So again, it's the framing, it's the language, it's the understanding, but all of this comes down to definitions, and you have to start with first principles of what is in the womb, who is in the womb, and whose image is that person in the womb, and it's in God's image. So there's a lot of first principle dynamics. And going back to your question, the silent scream is what we've often called abortion, the unborn child, because I mean there's actual record of children being in that much pain when they have been aborted in the womb, and that's a whole other conversation. But my purpose in this is saying we don't have to view this as the silent scream, as what we hide in the fog and forget about. There are over 86,000 known survivors of surgical abortions living in the United States alone. That does not count the innumerable individuals who have survived a saline infusion abortion, because during the 70s and 80s, that was the predominant style of abortion, where you were burning in a toxic salt solution in your mother's womb for up to 3 days. And many babies were born alive in this process. And it fell out of favor because these babies were born alive. When you have these conversations and you realize that there are innumerable people who have survived abortions who are living to this day, and I think you and I talked about this, I can't say who on air, but there are some very famous, and I mean internationally renowned people who have survived abortion that we are hoping will take part in this. When you see these kinds of people and you realize many of them were, conceived in rape, many of them were survivors of abortion, it changes that conversation.
Yes, it does. Guys, don't go any further. I did look at your comments. I will grab a few of them as soon as we come back from our next and last ad break. We'll be right back.
What if millions around the world could access Bible teaching and worldview training for free right now without hitting a paywall? That's exactly what happens every day at worldviewtube.com because of the Worldview Weekend Foundation. We don't lock our live stream behind PayPal. We don't restrict our content to members only. Instead, the Worldview Weekend Foundation helps cover the cost of delivering free educational and ministry programming to people across the nation and around the world. And it's not just programming. My Sunday night church service, where I taught verse by verse through Revelation for 18 months, and now I am teaching through the book of Daniel, is made possible through the support of our church, Worldview Weekend Foundation. If you believe this kind of truth-centered biblical teaching must continue, donate today. Go now to worldviewfoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address and phone number there if you'd rather give by phone or mail. That's worldviewfoundation.com. Thank you.
Welcome back to Live Up to Freedom. Thank you so much for staying with us until now. I greatly appreciate all of you on the chat of all platforms. I agree with almost everybody. Yes. And let me just emphasize, Worldview Tube is by far the only network that has allowed voices like mine to be on air every day, sometimes more than once, because as you know, Brennan has me on his radio and his Brennan House Live on a regular basis during the revolution in Iran, even back during the Woman Life Freedom Uprising, even before that, when we had the 12 Days War. I'm still here talking about topics that should not be touched, and he has not pulled me off air, he has not censored me, he has not canceled me, and most certainly he didn't call me to say, you can say this, you cannot say that. So as I do every day, I will ask you to go ahead and make a tax-deductible donation to Brannan's Foundation Ministry and Church, Worldview Foundation. You can go to worldviewfoundation.com or www.foundation.com, or just straight from the website. Make a donation. Any amount will help. The longer we keep this network on air, the longer voices like mine, Sharon Hadian, Aaron Navarco, Osama Dakdok, the rest of us will be heard. And on top of that, every time we have guests like mine today, like Gillett, with her amazing mission, these are the voices that matter. So www.foundation.com, that's www.foundation.com, or if you go to their website or grab the information off the lower third, you can just make a call. If you're like me, a little paranoid of online, just make a call. A real person will answer you from Brennan's team, and you can make the payment over the phone. I just realized my hair is like, who cares? Okay. Just pretend like my hair's fine, right? Nobody cares. Okay, let's bring Alaric back on because we have literally 8 minutes to wrap this up. The very first question, or I think the great news I have here, Alaric, one of my audience from YouTube, When Dog Radio, would like to know how they can get in touch with you directly. They would like to run your ad free of charge on their broadcast. So what do they do? Is there an email address they can use to get in touch with you fast?
God bless you. That's amazing. And it's an easy email. It's facesofchoice@facesofchoice.org. And you can also go to the website, just facesofchoice.org, and the contact form that goes directly to my inbox. So I will see it immediately.
Perfect. You got that. Faces of Choice at facesofchoice.org. Everybody else, anybody, if you have a podcast, if you have a broadcast, if you have a network, if you have a magazine, if you have a Substack, if you have an Instagram page or a Facebook page, reach out to her, get him. Again, this is one of those times. We can all talk the talk. If you're not walking the walk, get out of the way. Yes, I'm that blunt. It is important. And John, thank you. I saw your comment. I feel very honored that I met Alaric and she accepted my hand in friendship and she's on my show. And I promise you she's going to be a regular. We're going to have to bring her back because this discussion takes way more than an hour, many more hours than one. But before we run out of time, we're going to repeat the information of where people can get in touch with you. I want to, if it's okay, I want to ask you this question that's been in my mind since the last time we talked on the phone. You're right. This has been turned into some sort of a politics tool, which is disturbing. But my question is, why is it okay with a majority Christian country? Why is it okay to, aside the whole politics side of it, when did we put down our armor that God has given us and decided to be cowards? Why is that okay in America? I mean, by far, Judeo-Christian values of the Constitution from the majority population of Christians. Where did we go wrong, Alaric?
Annie, when I've said, and I'll preface this by just giving an easy answer, which is propaganda. And I do think that there's a big part of that. When you go back to the conversation about reclaiming language, that's fundamental. And I don't want to undermine that at all. But when I've used the words in this conversation, covenant of death, I don't mean that lightly. I'm actually speaking of that in a truly spiritual kind of conversation. You can look at Moloch and child sacrifice. What happened and transpired in that period of time, it was always about maintaining a system of order. There was always this dynamic of murdering those that are weaker to be able to achieve our ends. But if you look at biblical Christianity, it's really the opposite. Greater love has no man than this, than to lay his life down for his friend, or the Son of God sacrificing his life and his precious blood to save any who would receive that. So really, I view this as Satan's mockery of the image of God, that this wholesale murder of innocent life really is flipping the script. Satan's attempts to do what he has always done and flip the script. But I'm also reminded of Revelation 12:11, which says, "And they overcame him being Satan, by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, because they did not love their lives unto death." To me, that completely describes the essence of survivors of abortion, especially in seeing so many of them speaking about Christ. But the next verse in Revelation said, "And the devil was furious because he knew his time is short," or because he knows his time is short. When you speak the truth of Christ, when you claim the blood of the Lamb as the word of your testimony, and you don't love your life unto death, that is what actually changes things. And it takes not just a lack of cowardice in the natural, but in the preternatural and the spiritual as well, to actually walk in the armor of light, as it says in Romans 13, that you have to cast off the works of darkness and put on the armor of light. Unless you are willing to live in congruence in mind, body, and spirit in a truly holistic way, where that health that you pursue is not just for your physical shell, but for the interior spirit man as well, until you get those those first principles in order, again, aligning yourself under the image of God, then you are open to deception of every kind, and you will engage in a form of idolatry, whether you are idolizing yourself or idolizing material good, or whether you are willing to operate in the cultural norm of a covenant of death for your own benefit. And that's what I see in our country, that we have deluded ourselves into thinking that a soft religion, a soft Christianity that simply makes us feel good and empowered is the truth. And it's not. The fact is, it's the greatest and most insidious deception of all.
Amen. You already know I've said this off air. You're amazing. You are. Thank you. I am so blessed, and I look forward to working with you in any capacity possible to help you with your mission. I hope you come back soon on Live Up to Freedom. And I hope all my audience, guys, show her love. And I mean the love you show me. Messages coming in, emails coming in, grabbing information, sharing everything she has on her website. This is too important not to get involved with. This is the conversation, just equally as important as the cult, the death cult of Islam. We parallel fight this death cult. So stay safe, Lyric. Reach out whenever you need to, and tell my audience one more time the email and the website.
The email is facesofchoice@facesofchoice.org, and the website is facesofchoice.org. And Annie, you are a warrior in every sense, and I am so blessed and honored to know you, and so thrilled that you reached out. Our friendship has been fast. I'm really grateful for that. I can't wait to see you in person, hopefully soon.
Lord willing, I appreciate you. And to my audience, you guys are, well, you all know you're amazing. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all the lovely words, all of the prayers and encouragement you put on the comment section for Lyric. I wish her everything you wished her: success, safety, discernment. And we will continue supporting her and her mission and her organization, because not only does matter, but as I said, you have to have serious, deep discernment to even think of this, to come up with a different way of addressing a major issue that is constantly being blocked in every conversation. It's this or that, this or that. So go to facesofchoice.org. Support her in any shape or form you can, from sharing her information, writing her encouraging letters. You guys sometimes send me emails that gets me through the day. Trust me, her days are tough. This is not an easy task. This is not an easy path. And though she's very strong, I have no doubt she can use all of our spiritual and verbal encouragement and support as well. Last time, reminding you, the event, March 14 in Chicago, Faith and Fire. I will be there as one of the keynote speakers. I will be bringing my books. If you want to pick up a copy, if you want to join us at the entire Networking the Network event, it is a great opportunity to meet other like-minded people, business owner, grassroots, and make connections. Networking the Network is where you can find the information, get your tickets. And I think the early birds are over, but still you can grab your seats and your tickets. You can send me an email, liveuptofreedom@gmail.com. That's liveuptofreedom@gmail.com. If you haven't sent in your request to be put on the first batch of signed copies of paperback, go ahead and send me those emails, and I will most likely not be back tomorrow. But if not, I'll see you either Thursday or Friday. Go and watch the panel of Brown House Live from last night. It was amazing. Stay safe and stay vigilant. You guys are amazing. I'll see you, Lord willing, soon. Bye, guys.
You are watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research.
Tonight on the Worldview Report, Virginia's Democrat Governor Abigail Spanberger is pushing a bill to join the National Popular Vote